All right, welcome to the GridironStuds Show, a post-early National Signing Day edition. There's so much going on in the world of sports, Emil. I'm almost scared or hesitant to start the show because something else might break out soon after we're done here.
I feel like we're almost TMZ anymore. More things happen off the field some days than on. Matter of fact, most days, more things are happening off the field.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's just that we're more nosy or if people are just really out of control more often.
Probably a little combination of both. I mean, there's no doubt as we got older and we had this, the social media and just the internet in general in the last 25 years has made everything instantaneous. I think you and I are old enough to remember a childhood where you had to get the sports page, so things just weren't happening as quickly.
Yeah, we had a little bit more time to digest stuff, but nevertheless, we've got a ton to get to on the show. The NFL has fired a coach, and you probably know who that is, but there's more to come on this, that's for sure. National Signing Day, as I said, just passed. We got to talk about that. That was a wild one. It's probably the wildest one on record. There's some bowl games coming up that we need to pick. There's an NFL week that's coming up that we need to pick. There's a lot to get to in the show today. But as always, before we do that, I want to ask you guys that if you're listening to this podcast right now, go ahead and subscribe on whatever you use to stream, whether that's Apple, Spotify, Anchor, whatever you're listening to us on. Please go ahead and subscribe. We're putting out great content, great shows. Our listenership, is that a word, Emil?
Listenership is a word that you invented if it isn't, so you can claim
Well, there you go. Our listenership is up. We're making waves here. We speak the truth here on the GridironStuds Show. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you're notified the next time we put out a show like this one. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to go ahead and subscribe there as well. A lot of great stuff coming out on this channel, along with the shows that we do. Great stuff I put out on defensive back work, and as well as I have solo shows talking about recruiting and things of that nature. A lot of great stuff for you here. I don't want to get into all of that, but I promise you, you won't be disappointed. So hit your subscribe buttons wherever you are getting this from. You want to follow Emil on social media. He's on Facebook, or Meta, whatever the hell they're calling that these days. EMI.
Zuck's got a new name, right?
Yes.
Yes.
There you go. EMILCALOMINO. Go ahead and write that down. Follow him on Facebook. I'm easy at GridironStuds, whether that's Twitter or Instagram or even TikTok, if you're looking for some kind of recruiting advice as well, if you happen to be in that space. Speaking of recruiting, Emil, early National Signing Day came up yesterday, but we'll have to talk about that. Before I jump into that, the other night, Brian Williams, longtime anchor and reporter for NBC News, signed off. Basically retiring, I guess is the word we'll use, although, he did open the door for him coming back to do something. But he signed off from NBC in his 11th hour show on the MSNBC. And in doing so, he gave a bit of a warning to the viewers out there, America at large, whoever watches the show. And he's pretty much talking about our lawmakers in this country. I guess this was a direct shot at Congress and not Democrats or Republicans, both. Talking about they've put us all in a house and they've burned it down. Basically saying we're kind of going to hell in a handbasket and it's at the hands of the leaders, the people at the top. And the reason I'm bringing this up is sometimes that's the feeling that I have about college football. And I've been struggling with all of the new changes that have been happening because a part of me doesn't want to be the old man that's saying get off the lawn. Because I have a certain idea of how college football should be because I've been watching it for some time and just trying to get, move into the new space, the new college football that exists. And then also keeping control of my senses, Emil, in that there's some things happening here and all that glitters is not necessarily gold. All of these changes that are being made, I think we're just in a herd mentality, if I could use that word, just following along and just going with it and feeling like it's all good when in fact this just really might not be good at all for the game. As we stand right now, Emil.
Wait, do you see how you immediately said about what you're yourself. Say, I don't want to be the old guy, get off the lawn. The only advantage of age pretty much is experience, but that's a big advantage, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you use it. Because you've been around long enough to see things, and if you're observant, you hopefully you get smarter as you get older. In a lot of societies, especially Asian societies, older people are held in very high regard. It's the exact opposite of what we do here in our country. And I think sometimes it's okay to be that person, even if people don't like it, because you're coming at it from a perspective of, hey, I see where you're going with this, and I get it, what you're trying to do, but have you considered all these unintended consequences? And they obviously, in my opinion, haven't in college football.
I just don't think so, man. And I'm looking at it right now in a short space of time, Emil. We can openly talk about and gamble on college football games. People have always bet on college football. We know this. But it's talked about so openly now, encouraged even. There are commercials for it. We have a transfer portal, therefore allowing players to just move at their whim. Yes, there are good reasons for people.
Can I stop you? Let's go point by point, though, because you're bringing up points. I don't want to. Let's start with the gambling on college football part, because you and I are both, over the years, neither one of us anymore bet on college football. We give out our picks on the show. We don't, but you get, again, with age, you get smarter.
Sure.
But if you're going to bet, listen to our picks. Hopefully they help you. But, we're not against gambling, obviously, or we wouldn't be giving out picks. We just don't do it anymore. But you and I both remember days when, to place a bet, you had to pick up a phone and call a man with no neck.
Sure.
And wait on the phone, and he'd give you the line, and you'd place a bet. In other words, it took effort. It wasn't easy to place a bet.
Yes.
Now, people are just sitting around with phones, not only placing bets, they're playing roulette, blackjack. How is this a good thing?
I don't know. There was, in the way that you described it, which is not far off, there was there was a deterrent there. So now it really was relegated to people who could, by and large, handle it, or would probably suffer the consequences, but again, could handle that. I don't know if I'm even describing that.
Or were willing to accept it.
Yes.
They understood the risk of, I'm calling a man that probably has a crew of people that if I don't pay him, if I lose, is going to break.
Yeah, and right, and this is not something a teenager would do. Not something the church clergy would run to do, although you may have had a few here or there. Yes. So now we've just made it easier. Well, they're going to do it anyway. If we use that same kind of logic with parenting, I don't know where we'd be. Well, you know what? That 14-year-old of mine in that bedroom is just going to have sex anyway. So go ahead and have it here on the couch while your mom and dad.
By the way, and here's some bourbon so you can get liquor.
Yeah, right. We may even coach you up. How retarded would that sound? How ridiculous would that sound? So that's where we're at. So we can openly talk about that. Now we have this transfer portal where you can transfer at a whim. All right, Emil, I get it. There are reasons to transfer. As someone who's been in this business for a while now, I have gotten countless calls, texts, emails over the years from former players or kids that I've had some kind of a connection with wanting to transfer from the school that they were at. This is pre-transfer portal. 90% of them, Emil, I would listen and I would advise to stay right where they were at. And I would say a good portion of those, Emil, turned out to have successful careers where they were in some way, shape, or form.
Analogy, since we're using analogies, and I really always felt this way about transfer portal. I kind of feel like what we've done with that is similar to divorce in our country, right? We're trying to find a happy medium. Let's go 50, 100 years ago, people got stuck, specifically women, more so, got stuck in relationships with abusive men, couldn't get out of them. Divorce was so discouraged, and that was kind of where college football was with transferring. Basically they made it very, very, very difficult for you to go to a different school. Well, we flipped the script now, and it went from, in my analogy, where it was very difficult to the point of not being fair, to the point of now you can go online and probably do it in 5 minutes. Okay, so it's kind of like the transfer portal. That's kind of the way I feel we're at. It's just like you had a bad day of practice. There's no deterrent, again, to use your word on our previous subject, deterrent. There's no deterrent to make you go back to your room and think about it. It's just you can act impulsively and say, I'm out of here, I'm bouncing, I'm done.
Yeah, imagine if you could, if there was an app that allowed you to file and get a divorce. Just as simple as, clicking.
10 minutes.
Yeah, clicking a few buttons. And if you got your wife somehow to agree to a split of assets, you could go ahead and click submit by both of you, and it was a done deal. Imagine that. Now, divorce is going to happen anyway, but imagine if we made it that easy.
Right. There has to be that moment of pause in anything that's serious in life. Like when you have major decisions to make in life, there should always be a moment that you pause and think about it for a while, because it's a serious decision. And obviously, changing schools when you're of that age, when you're in college, is a big life decision.
Absolutely.
Forget football, it's just a big decision. You should think about it for a few minutes.
Yeah, and I think the public at large out there look at the positive ones that have been publicized. Jalen Hurts to Oklahoma, Baker Mayfield to Oklahoma, things of that nature. But they fail to realize that there are 1,000+ kids in the transfer portal, many of which who won't find new homes. I personally know kids that went in the transfer portal and failed to find another scholarship and just returned home, and their college football career and their education is over with. They didn't find another school that was willing to pick them up.
I bet you there's more, maybe not to that extent, I don't know that, but I'm saying I bet you there's more that don't end with the wonderful, warm, fuzzy Jalen Hurts story than there is.
Oh, absolutely. Overwhelmingly so, Emil. Overwhelmingly so, that is the case. And there's a high number of them that end up the way that I just described. You gave up your scholarship going in a transfer portal and you were not able to secure another one at another school. So we've got that going on. Then we have what was front and center yesterday, which is NIL deals. Now, I've been struggling with this, Emil. I'm going back and forth on it. At first, I was dead set against players getting paid to play college football. And that's essentially what the NIL is. People can describe it however they want. Oh, they're finally getting a chance to profit off of their name, etc. I don't know if that's how we can describe it if this money is being given to kids who have not yet stepped on a college football field. However,
no, you're being paid. I mean, I'm assuming part of the backstory here is going to be a guy that we both loved as a player, and he seems to be doing well as a coach. Dion Sanders, how he got the kid from Florida State to go to Jackson State. My understanding is there was a huge NIL deal. Right?
And we'll get into that, of course. That's obviously going to be a part of what we need to talk about today. But we have these NIL deals, and they're being, in large part, being given to kids to come to the school. I don't know how the players that are currently on these rosters right now feel about it. If you're at Ohio State, and you are one of the quarterbacks that were signed to Ohio State last year, or you're already on the roster, you're a junior, sophomore, whatever, at Ohio State, and you heard a high school kid was getting a $1.5 million NIL deal to come to Ohio State, and he's not yet thrown a pass in practice, I don't know how you would feel about that. But that is the case. That is what's happening here. And I have felt, first of all, I was dead set against it. But when I started thinking about the way coaches move around and the, turmoil that it causes for a player when a coach leaves and a new coach comes in, and then there's the whole, does this system fit me? Does the coach like me? The coach wants to play his own players, the guys he's gone out and recruited behind me, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, well, these players deserve some kind of compensation for that. But the more I'm watching how these NIL deals are shaking out, man, Emil, I can't help but feel like this is not a good thing for college football. I could be wrong here.
The word that comes to my mind when I think about it and I hear about it is greasy. It just doesn't seem right. Something's not right. And again, we have to go back to say what is college football? I mean, if we want it to be the AAA of the NFL, then so be it. But let's admit that, because if it's not about college any longer, and you're not telling me that education's worth anything, then I got to question what we're all doing here. It seems, I don't know, it just seems very odd to me. There's no limiting principle, if that makes any sense. I mean, where does it stop? So now some kid gets $1.5 million. The next one's going to be 2.5. I mean, so where does this all stop?
I'm not certain at all where this is going to go. I'm concerned, just to be honest about it. I am indeed concerned about where it's going, where we're going to end up here. Everyone just thinks, okay, well, if it's money and these players are getting paid, then it's all good. I'm just not sure where this is going to go. So let's get into.
I think a lot of younger people, they only know the game the way they've seen it, and we're in that in between where we're not really, really old, we're middle aged, we remember what we used to watch, and I just really don't feel that the game has improved. Actually, in most cases, I feel they've taken the sport, they've rendered bowl games. We've had that discussion. They've rendered the bowl games meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 bowl games that matter. Okay. You got kids shifting team to team. Essentially, we've got free agency.
Mm-hmm.
This feels to me about as close as you could get to AAA sports at major Division I college football. As you know what I'm saying? Does this seem any different to you? I mean, it seems like I'm watching AAA football.
No, I think right now we're going to have a holdover of college football fans because this is what they've always known. But at some point, we might see a trickle down, a trickle off. People getting turned off by.
Just watch the NFL. I mean, my thing, I always make a joke on the show when it comes up. I say, well, if I'm going to watch pros play, I want to watch the best ones play.
Sure, yeah, and then you've always made that argument that this is just going to turn into minor league football. We're paying players pretty good amounts of money now to. And like I said, they have not even stepped on a college football field. And I just wonder what kind of animosity that's going to bring from fan bases towards players. I just think that's going to make them more enemies, of the fan bases. What do you say to a player who's made $2.5 million in NIL deals when he throws interceptions or just really can't even perform? Because, again, we don't know anything. You gave him $2.5 million out of high school. Maybe he's not a legit player. Does this happen in the NFL? Yes, but at least the guy has proven something through the college level before he gets to the NFL. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And these are grown men.
Well, I mean, I had a guy on my page the other day, and I forget what the initial conversation was about, but Micah Parsons came up. He's a Penn State fan, and he said to me, yeah, he's a great player. It looks like he's going to have a wonderful career. He could have been one of the best at Penn State. He went into detailing everything he fell short of in this guy's expectations at Penn State. And I said, if he ends up wearing a gold jacket someday, I really don't think he cares if he replaced Todd Blackledge and Shane Conlon as Penn State greats. I said, listen, you're watching minor league football. Mm-hmm. You need to understand that, okay? These guys are, there to go to the NFL. That's what they're there to do at this point.
Yeah,
period.
It's an opportunity to go pro at this sport that you're playing. And I hear the arguments from folks who say, listen, we've got coaches making $8, $9, $10 million a year. There's $100 million contracts. These guys come and go. I'm not in favor of all of the movement by college football coaches, but I do understand that these are grown men who've gone through, they have college degrees. You need one to coach college football. There's a bit of seasoning and growth. And now you're into a career per se, and there will be movement in a career. There'll be mobility in career. So I get that part of it. Would I like there to be less? Sure. I'm on record for saying I think we fire coaches a little bit too fast, especially in college football. And when you start doing that, coaches start feeling a little antsy even when they're successful at a job. They start moving because they want to move before they get shot. If you slow down some of the firing, guys stay in place.
First on the coaches, I'm with you on everything you've said about I wish there was a way to somehow magically slow down their movement. I don't know if there is, but to play devil's advocate, no sport in my mind relies as much on a great coach as college football and basketball at the major, especially at the high level.
Sure,
the coach actually,
it's everything.
He becomes the face of the program.
Right,
the coach changes everything.
Right.
Okay? So I'm paying a guy $10 million. I got 100 kids on a roster. Let's take a school, Miami, USC. That's $250,000, maybe $300,000 tuition over 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Every time they run through the tunnel, that's 25 to 30 million free tuition. Not to mention the uniforms, insurance, travel. I mean, think about what it costs to run that program. So one man making $10 million, while it's absurd to most of us, think about what those programs generate in terms of revenue and opportunity for the kids. If we don't, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you don't view the education as an opportunity, well, that's where we're going to have to part ways. We can't even have a discussion, and I think that's where most fans are.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, so what? You know, the education, that doesn't mean, well, it does mean something. Mm-hmm. It's not our fault if they don't want to take advantage of it.
We got billions of dollars of debt in this country behind education. So don't tell me it doesn't mean anything.
It means a lot. I mean, saying to somebody, you've got an opportunity to maybe make the NFL, which is very small. I mean, you know that. It's very, very, very small. Of
sure.
All these big schools, it's a tiny percentage of people that actually get to have an NFL career. So you got an opportunity to have that, but you've also got a free education from a top-flight school if you want to take advantage of it.
Sure. And this thing's kind of turned into, I will hear people talk about, I don't even remember the word that we use, but there are people that get up in arms about participation trophies. It's what this stuff is starting to look like. Participation trophies. All right. We say, a guy will go play college football. He'll put it out, lay it all out for the team and the university. And then, he gets injured or it doesn't work out for him in the NFL. And that's just up in smoke. It's not how it is. I'm one of those guys. That's not how I view my college football career. And NFL did not work out for me. But I had a tremendous experience. I got an education out of it. I met great people. And I parlayed that into my post-football life. And so
you used a lot of that in businesses that you've developed. So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't up in smoke. It was a great experience.
It is what you make it. But saying we need to give everyone money because they played college football and they put on a uniform and they got in pads and they went through practices and they tackled, et cetera, really seems like a participation trophy. As you described it, it's a chance to go pro. And you go and you give it your best effort and hopefully you make it. But if you didn't, you had that experience. Hopefully there was some growth and you learned all the lessons that football teaches you. And you apply it to your post-football life. Do you need $2 million for that?
Let's do this, right? Alabama, we consider that the gold standard right now in college football. We agree there?
Correct.
Okay, they got 100 guys on their roster. Fair to say 10 every year make it to the NFL?
At this point, that's what it looks like, yes.
Okay, so at any one time, they've got 40 future NFL players on a roster of 100. The best program, the team that's won 6 national or 7 national championships in the last 10 or 11 years, even them, only 40% of their players make the NFL, and that's the highest. So now, take a team like Texas, which is a great program. Theirs are probably down about 15% right now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
It goes down and down. And then think how many kids play Division I, Power 5 football. You're talking such a small percentage.
Yeah.
That will play in the NFL. Those people don't even realize.
Yeah, and there'll be also those who say, well, players have always been getting paid. This has been going on for a while. Now we've got NIL deals, et cetera, et cetera. Listen, there were guys that were taking steroids in baseball. What if we just allowed it? What if we just said it's cool? You guys just take steroids. What would it be?
Again, your key word. You hit a key word early in this. You didn't even plan it. The word is deterrent.
Yes.
There's a deterrent to the bag man, okay? Because if you get caught, you become SMU, okay?
Right. Tarred and feathered. And I just feel like this is where our society is going. You know what? People are going to speed anyway. Let's get rid of the speed limits. What would be the ramifications of that if we decide?
I drive 80. If I knew there was never a cop on the highway, believe me, it'd be a lot higher.
Sure, and there'd be teenagers out there doing 120 everywhere if there were no ramifications. So we're just pushing through and allowing everything. And I don't think we're thinking about the long-term effects of this. What we're just thinking about is money. It's money right now for these kids, and they should be compensated for their hard work, et cetera, et cetera. No one's willing to do anything now without being paid for it. Like, imagine if you went to your dad and said, Dad, I saw one of your pay stubs, and it seems you're making $75,000. And right now I'm around here cleaning these bathrooms and these dishes and, cleaning up behind you and Mom sometimes. And I'm just not seeing my cut here. How fast do you think the right side of your face would be on the left side of your face?
Exactly. And maybe
I couldn't even dream a scenario where I would tell my dad that.
No. And maybe there's something to be said for that period of time that we grew up in to a degree. I mean, I think we've gone from one extreme to the other. Now we're in the world of complete silliness.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. When I watch college football and what they're doing to this sport and the money being thrown around, I just see it as utter silliness.
Yeah, so Emil, like Brian Williams, listen, I'm not signing off. I haven't signed off. I will tell you, more so over the last 4 or 5 years, I've had those moments of just, man, you know what? I might be done with this sport. My kids are done. They're through it. Why do I care anymore? And I still continue to care. But, man, like I said, I've had those moments more in the last 5 years than I've ever had. I've never had them, prior to these 4 or 5 years.
Somebody, I still watch like my team, like I care kind of what they do, but I'm not as like I have more emotional investment generally in the NFL now, just because I feel like I'm not kidding myself. I know they're getting paid. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with it. It's the league where they play for pay.
Yeah.
Used to say.
Yeah, you earned that. You earned that right. Just like I got my 4 or 5 year degree and I went to IBM or Microsoft or whatever. I earned that.
I feel like I'm kidding myself if I put too much emotional investment anymore into college football. And I still like watching the games. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. Obviously, we're doing a football show. Of course I like watching the games. But I'm not going to invest a ton of emotional energy into a sport where basically, you can come along with $1.5 million and get a recruit.
Sure. The kid that went to Ohio State and stayed there for a semester got $1.5 million and ended up going to Texas, the school he originally committed to when he was in high school. Is that what we want? Is that where we wanted to be? Is that how we want things to go? I'm not sure.
Texas probably feels like they got a deal. At least they didn't have to pay him.
Of course. And, I mean, it's all good until it happens to you, until a kid commits to you on an NIL deal. Having said all of that, Emil, one Dion Sanders is doing a really, really great thing, but then he's also a part of this whole cycle that we talked about. The great thing that he's doing is restoring the honor and attention and, bringing some eyes to HBCU football. And whether fans out there, longtime fans of the NFL, know it or not, remember it or not, HBCU football has been a big contributor to the NFL. If you've been watching it for 30, 40 plus years, it's been a huge contributor. Walter Payton, Jerry Rice, Michael Strahan, I can go through a number of names. And we reached a point where we hit a valley there. It just wasn't producing like that anymore. We could go into the history of it, of why that has happened, and it just fell completely off the map. It left just like, Eddie Robinson. Basically, when he was gone, HBCU football was gone, out of the consciousness. Right. And him going back to it has brought a tremendous amount of attention to it. ESPN's paying attention now. They're televising games. He's constantly promoting HBCU football through Jackson State, where he's the head coach. So there is a system that exists now, and one that has NIL, like we talked about. Having said all that I've said, I am not mad at all at what Dion Sanders pulled off yesterday. And in case you didn't know, Dion Sanders yanked the number one recruit in the country away from his alma mater, Florida State, because that's where the kid was committed to, and all but headed there until late Tuesday night. He was headed to his alma mater, Florida State, and through what appears to be a rather lucrative NIL deal with Barstool Sports, who Dion has a contract with, was able to essentially lure the young man away from Florida State to Jackson State. It brings a tremendous amount of publicity to Jackson State and HBCU football. It does illuminate the whole idea with the NIL. Is this a good thing? Do we want kids making choices about their career and their future solely based on NIL money. That's a discussion we could get into, or that needs to be had either now or at a later date. Whatever the case may be, this is the system that exists. Deion Sanders used it to his major advantage, and it was a big win for Jackson State. I'm not mad at Deion Sanders.
I think it's great. I think if it's mirror up to college football and lets them look at it and say, is this what we want to be?
Yeah.
He just beat them at their own game. That's fine.
Yeah, you know the similarities I draw here? It was 1994. Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa going back and forth, smashing home runs. Everyone's happy about it. And Barry Bonds is sitting there with his 45 or 46 home runs, and no one's paying attention to the best pure hitter I think I've ever seen in the game. And one of the best five-tool all-around baseball players that's ever played the game. And he's just sitting there in the shadows as they watch these two behemoths jacked up on juice, smash home run after home run, and then Barry says, "Oh, okay, you guys are not going to do anything about this? Watch this." And obviously,
and you know what? That's exactly the way I heard the story, and I don't know how true it is, that he was at some point when that was happening with or around Ken Griffey Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And he pointed and said, "Look at these two guys." You know, and he knew what they were. They
right.
were good players, but they weren't that.
Right.
And he said something to the effect of, "If they want to see home runs, I'll show them home runs."
Yeah, and damn it, did he show them?
Yeah.
He freaking showed them.
And everybody's mad at him.
Yeah.
You know, that's a whole other tangent we could get on about,
But the way that went was so on par with their personalities. I could see them having that conversation, and I could see Ken Griffey saying, "Nah, I'm not going to go that route." And I could see Barry Bonds, because we all know he was explosive. He was an explosive character, saying, "Well, that's you, Kenny. I'm going to go this route. They want to laud home runs. They want to hold it in high esteem no matter what. Let me show them home runs, 71 of them. And however 9,000 he ended up with in his career. And I'm going to show you a bases loaded walk. And I'm going to show you a home run every time you put that thing near the plate while I'm on this juice, since no one cares."
He's a bad guy, remember. They made the rules up. They, meaning management of baseball, they didn't make it illegal, but yet he's the bad guy.
Well, guess who's a bad guy this morning outside of Jackson, Mississippi? Deion Sanders is a bad guy. Florida State fans are burning Deion Sanders memorabilia. They're cussing him out on social media.
That has to be a bunch of white people.
No question.
Yeah, because only white people burn stuff.
We established that.
So we're into that. We're into that.
Yeah. Our folks are gonna we're gonna repurpose that whatever the hell it is. A Deion Sanders jersey can wipe down a counter or be put on our head when we're mowing the lawn. We're not burning it, I'll tell you that.
No.
But he's the villain right now outside of Jackson State in the HBCU community. The powers that be in college football, Power 5, did not like this. NIL thing seemed like a good idea until Deion Sanders came along, and reportedly, Emil, it's $4 million for this kid. That's the number I'm hearing, $4 million for this kid. And hey, let's just be honest, Emil. $4 million is going to change a kid's mind. It's going to change a family's mind. We don't know what will happen if I go to Florida State. I don't know if I'll be the guy. I don't know if I'll get injured. You're telling me right now you can give me $4 million before I step on the field and get hit by anybody? Yeah.
Listen, for $4 million, I would have played college football for Johnson Technology.
Yeah, there you go, right? And probably get beat 111-0 every week.
Right.
So yes, that's going to be a motivating factor. And I'm saying, is this what we want in college football? It's currently the system that we have, and Dion is using it to his advantage. I'm not mad at Dion, so I don't want anyone hearing me go on this tangent or hearing Emil and I go on this rant about it, feeling like we've got anything against Deion Sanders, because I don't think either one of us do. This is a system that's in place.
He took the rules and he used them. That's the problem. Don't be mad at him, the player. Be mad at the rules. Be mad at the game. Don't be mad at the player.
Yes. So one of the unintended consequences of what happened yesterday is maybe now you really take a look at NIL. And I don't think we could put the toothpaste back in the tube, using a term, or saying that you've said here before. I don't know if we could put the toothpaste back in the tube, but man, we can definitely put a regulator on there and make sure that thing doesn't spray everywhere onto the sink and on the mirror in front of us.
And they're going to, listen, they see some of this now. People, even coaches, are admitting it that the early signing day, they're going to move it back. They're having their coaches meeting supposedly this is getting moved back into the middle of January, because the reason you have the early coaching movement is simple. You have early signing day before the season's over. You have coaches that want to be able to recruit a class that year and not come in empty-handed. Therefore, they're leaving teams middle of the year. You're getting guys fired middle of the year instead of finishing the year. Just the unintended consequence is they didn't anticipate it, and that's what now they're going to have to adjust.
Emil, I'm just sitting here thinking of myself as a college football coach making $250,000 a year to coach boys, especially. You know, what part of your job as a college football coach is to raise 18-year-old boys into 21-year-old, 22-year-old men. And I'm just thinking of myself as a $250,000 guy trying to call in an 18-year-old who's got $4 million in his pocket and trying to explain to him that he's going to need to come in at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning because he missed a tutor session, and he's going to need to see the strength coach. He's going to need to do some rolls on the field. He's going to need to do some lunges. He's going to need. This kid has $4 million in his pocket. He knows he's going to be around. What kind? And the kid tells me, Coach, I ain't got time for that. I don't have time for that, Coach. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Am I gonna send this kid off? I'm gonna say, Coach, man, this kid's not gonna get it done. He's undisciplined. We can't. Or I'm gonna tell that kid, we need to get him out of here. He's got $4 million he's gonna leave with.
Yeah, I mean, it just, again, I think people made some snap decisions along the way the last couple of years, and they really never played a game of chess out to say, well, what's the move 2 steps ahead?
Mm-hmm.
And they never really thought it through. And I think now they're, again, we're going to need, like you said, a regulator, some adjustment here, or this thing's going to spiral out of control, and it's going to be quickly.
Well, I don't have the exact details on this, but I know the state of Florida, ironically, and they say it's only ironically, it's nothing planned, yesterday pushed through legislation about the state of Florida being able to, the schools, the state schools in Florida being able to pursue NIL deals for players. Because prior to yesterday, you were not able to do that. It had to be an outside organization that would organize and present NIL deals to recruits. Suddenly,
you mean the school pay the kid direct?
I don't know about it being direct, but the school could not play a hand in organizing any kind of NIL deal for a recruit.
They can play a hand in it, whether the check says Florida State University or the Emil Calomino Corporation. If Florida State comes to me as a booster and they're playing a hand in it, essentially they're paying me.
Sure.
So,
yeah. However you want to draw it up. You couldn't do that prior to yesterday. Ironically, as of now, you are able to do that as a state school in Florida. They swear it has nothing to do with Florida State, losing a recruit.
Am I a grumpy old man if I call it AAA football?
You are, not to me, but, to the 20-something or early 30-something out there that might be listening to the show, they're probably bobbing their head right now and said, look at these two guys. These guys are the guys in the balcony at the Muppets right now. That's what these two guys are. But
I call it what it is. I mean, you can give it any name you like.
Yeah. I wonder where we would draw a line, though. What would be the line for the 20-something-year-old or the early 30-something-year-old where they'd be like, oh, okay, all right, we're out of control? What would it be? Like legalizing?
I don't know if they have that in their toolbox yet. They haven't lived long enough. So right now they're paper chasers at that age. Everybody's chasing the money. They're paper chasers. That's
really what we've all become about. Just really, if it makes money, if it puts money in someone's pocket, it's all good. Doesn't matter. We don't care.
And here's the thing: when you get a little older, you have some perspective on that, and your views change. So I'm not sure there is a line for them, and I'm not sure there was a line for me at that age. Maybe I wouldn't see it either. I don't know.
Perhaps. I got to dig back into my 25-year-old brain. I know I've always had some kind of moral structure, though, and
morals. I mean, we're not talking anything illegal here or bad. We're saying ruining the game. I'm not sure.
Well, I got to stop you there because that's one of my pet peeves. I don't like when we in this, and I know this isn't you. That's just how it came out. I don't like when we draw this conclusion that legally right is also morally correct.
Oh no, I believe me. I know there's a distinction completely, and I hear you. I'm saying, in this case, I'm not even sure we can say I'm not sure if we can, we'd have to get in some philosophical debate on this one about morals. Maybe it is.
And we'd never come to a conclusion in this country,
No,
for
I
sure.
just think I think at that age, it's very hard for a 25-year-old to hear two people like us saying, these guys, you're not helping them. And they're like, what are you talking about? Giving a kid $1 million isn't helping him. $1 million is a lot of money to a 20-some-year-old when you realize how long your life, if you're lucky, can be. You can blow $1 million pretty quickly, and if you got no way to earn going forward, I didn't do you a favor.
I'm just worried also too, Emil, and I'm happy to see what Texas did in giving $50,000 to every one of the linemen. But I think linemen are going to really be lost in this whole thing. So on top of people that are already on the roster that don't have this stuff, and we're going to watch recruits come in here wet behind the ears with money. What's going to happen when
how funny what you just said sounded. Take a step back.
What?
I think it was great that Texas gave $50,000 everyone.
To every lineman,
No, but I'm saying, if you said that like 20 years ago.
Oh, it would sound ridiculous, yes.
It sounds ridiculous. I think it was great they gave $50,000 every line.
I think that's great. At a ton of other places, it's only going to be quarterbacks and wide receivers that are going to get this kind of money, and maybe a DB here or there. Offensive linemen are going to be left out of this whole, pot. Most likely defensive linemen.
Let's put a bow on this segment. I'd like to end it saying this to you. Maybe Cam Newton's father was onto something.
Oh, for heaven's sake. For the love of God, because his father was a pastor. Come on. Yeah, crazy stuff here. We got to get into some picks, man. But before we go there, Emil, there's absolutely, positively no way that we can ignore this. I'm going to say this, Emil. This is a man that I've met that I happen to like on a personal level. Clearly, I don't know him, and I think there's a bunch of people out there who don't know them. Late, and I mean late last night, I'm getting ready to turn in, and I was turning in late, and I get the message across my phone that Urban Meyer has been fired after going 2-11 in his short stint as the Jaguars head coach. We both know it's more than just the 2-11. There've been guys that have come in that have, been given a reprieve with that type of record before. There's just all the other stuff, the content that Urban Meyer seems to be constantly providing for us now. And Emil, let's just skirt by the obvious. He's been fired. It didn't perform well on the field. I am now, Emil, concerned that he's damaged goods at any level. I could see Urban Meyer trying to get back into college football at its highest level and being denied. I see him having to go to Hugh Freeze route, where you're going to a far less publicized program. As we were getting on the air, Emil, I sent you a video. And in this video, for those of you, again, who have not had a chance to see it, this is apparently, Emil, Urban Meyer on a boat doing an interview with I don't know who, but it's a video interview. I guess it's Zoom. And he's on a boat, apparently. And there's a mirror behind him. Unfortunately. Just frickin' unfortunate. This guy's really unfortunate lately. There's a mirror behind him. And in the mirror, there appears what is obviously a shirtless man. Let's just hope that. All right? All we can see in the mirror is from the waist up. He's shirtless. We're just going to hope that that's all that it was. All right? That's where I'm going to leave that. On top of that, apparently, the guy's hitting a bong. All right? I'm not joking, folks.
I saw it.
I'm not joking. This is real stuff. Real stuff going on in the world. He's hitting a bong while Urban Meyer waxed poetic on what's needed to develop young men as bong noises are being...
Well, I mean,
over the melody, Emil, of bong noises in the background.
You said something at the beginning of this segment. I'm gonna correct you for your. You said I like him personally. Let's be honest. The act that he showed you was to get one or both of your two excellent sons to go play football for him. So he was putting on a show.
He's a likable character in what at least he shows publicly. Many people will attest to that. The public persona of Urban Meyer is very, very likable. That obviously has played itself out in his career up until now. until he kicked Josh Lambo. That is the case.
Well, maybe we need to ask. Maybe the old where there's smoke, there's some fire. The accusations with the coach at Ohio State who was hitting his wife, and Urban did his best. Sergeant Schultz. For you younger people, go look up Sergeant Schultz. He was a character in a TV show. Okay, he said, "I know nothing. I know nothing." He did his best, Sergeant Schultz. Maybe there's something to Maybe Urban Meyer that we see is nothing more than a facade.
It would appear so, Emil. Unfortunately, it appears so. There's just too much outside of the lines right now. There's the stuff with the young lady earlier this year. There's how he kicked off this whole tenure with the Jacksonville Jaguars, hiring a racist strength coach. There's stuff that dates back to Ohio State. There's stuff that dates back to Florida. Obviously, how he didn't really police the players there, and you had a killer on your team. That's one that's going to go down. You had a pastor, the holiest person you'll know, and you had a killer on your team who showed serious tendencies while he was there that went unchecked. There's just so much content outside of the football field for Urban Meyer. Now, on the heels of getting Urban Meyer's last 24 hours, story comes out. Listen, anyone who says kickers can't get it done better rethink that whole thing. Because I know there was a locker room full of guys in Jacksonville that wanted this man out of there. I know there's a whole fan base, however many people that is, a couple thousand, Jacksonville Jaguars fan base, that wanted him gone. And it seemed like he was immovable. It wasn't but maybe 2 weeks ago the owner gave him a vote of confidence, said we're bringing him back. And that was all until late evening last night. We got the story about Josh Lambo, the kicker, former kicker for the Jacksonville Jaguars, talking about how Urban kicked him in the leg while he was stretching and told him he needed to make those kicks in less colorful language. And then he gets fired. And then this video comes out today that we're going to be dealing with the whole day with this, again, hopefully just shirtless man hitting a bong. And then on camera, you see Urban Meyer motioning with his face, the kind of face you give your kid in church when he's tripping in the front rows of the pews, to knock it off. I'm actually doing an interview here, and this could be detrimental to my career.
Yeah, and you know what? I watched that again after you showed it to me before. I don't know, Urban might have been partaking in that at some point prior.
Oh, come on, Emil, are you kidding me? If there was ever a reason to hit the red button on a Zoom meeting, it was then. We're not going to see these faces you're making? Who did you think we thought you were talking to? One of your kids?
He looked like he was a little bit like
blitzed, blazed.
The Dorito bag.
Yeah, he was full on red man, method man, whatever the case may be. He was baked. Yeah. It seemed he might have been baked, and it's like, look, can we save this for later? But God Almighty, a lot of conclusions are going to be drawn to that video.
I think he's toxic, and I really think you're spot on. You and I were having our chat with we have a three-man chat going about where he might end up, and I had suggested, kidding around, maybe USC needs to fire Riley immediately. I'm kidding. So I said,
what did I say? I said I could see him in the Pac-12 next. And then I saw this video, and I was like, you know what, man, this is the cherry on top.
UCLA, for as much as I have fun with them, because I'm a USC fan, they hold their academic reputation in high regard. I just couldn't see them doing that.
Yes. I don't know the landing spot for Urban Meyer. Let's say something crazy happened and Marcus Freeman just didn't get the job done at Notre Dame. They're supposed to be holy. Are they taking that guy? Don't see it.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
If they did, it takes all their credibility of all the things they try to sell to their fan base and burns it up in smoke.
Yeah, I say touchdown Jesus comes off the wall and blocks that. I don't see that happening. Yeah. I don't know where you go in the ACC. Dabo Swinney's not leaving. Miami just got a new coach. Florida State just extended their guy, and I don't think, you're going to go across I-10 from Jacksonville to Florida State and not catch mad hell. I just don't know where. He's not going back into the SEC. I don't know where this guy goes. And so it looks like it would be out of Power 5 at least. Maybe FCS if he really wants to coach, or maybe, man, you just take the money from the Jacksonville Jaguars, which I'm sure there'll be some litigation on that for sure, and ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, I think your best bet with him, if I'm his agent, my advice, I'm going to say, you're going to get paid You have a lot of money, lay low for a year, somebody will do something dumber, and then go back to TV. I think his coaching career, I'm never going to say never, but I think it's going to be very hard for him to have the kind of career he would want, a guy with his resume to go back. You know, is he really going to go out of the Power 5? I mean, come on.
I don't know. Like I said, I did bring up Hugh Freeze, who left Ole Miss and went to Liberty.
Freeze ain't Urban Meyer.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, I would agree. Man, I don't know.
What does it say about him, forgetting all the other stuff we talked about, because that's all ants, but what does it say about him as a person if you're kicking your own players? I mean, not love tap Bill Parcells, hey man, you're going to make it next time. I mean, the way I understood that conversation, it wasn't he was trying to pump the guy up. It was almost a threat.
Yeah, listen, Emil, I grew up in an era where, and this would happen to me on my Little League team, where you get grabbed by your face mask. And that could happen while you're standing or sitting. You could get picked up by your face mask with your head still in it. And you might get thumped by a coach, might throw a ball off your head, might do something like that. I grew up in that era. And while I would not entirely excuse stuff like that, it was for motivational purposes. And the way this was described, albeit from Josh Lambeau, didn't seem to have any of that. It was just, I want to just let you know how heavy my balls are. And I like some prison intimidation type thing.
Yeah, I mean, I played baseball for a coach who used to hit you with a bat and a nutsack to make sure you had your cup on.
Whoa. Could you imagine the ramifications of leaving that in your dad's trunk?
There was ramifications, and he never did it again, right? So you learned. It was motivational. It wasn't done.
Yeah, come on. But yes, that's just how it seemed, and I think that probably is what threw it over the top. That, or maybe the owner saw this video we saw today before all of us and said, you know what, let me get out ahead of this thing and fire this guy.
He's a disaster. You know, if the NFL really wants to fix that franchise, I think they really need to start looking at, you know, maybe forcing him out. Everybody's focused on Dan Snyder. Dan Snyder this, Dan Snyder that. This guy's eclipsed, in my mind, the Washington football team as being an abject disaster.
I kind of liked your suggestion today you had over text where we moved the Jacksonville franchise to Tuscaloosa and we let Nick Saban coach them up on Tuesdays and Thursdays and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, he could do it part-time. They'd still win 5 games.
Yeah, that would be a hell of a lot more than the 2 that they have going on. All right, we got to move on from this whole thing. Listen, the way things are going right now, Emil, and I'm not really checking the phone, there's probably a bunch of wild stuff that's gone in the last 50 minutes that we've been on air here that we, might have to jump back on and discuss. Nevertheless, we've got NFL and college football picks to make. Here's the deal, Emil. We're going to make 10 picks right now on college football games. We're going to get out ahead of this thing because, we're not certain we're going to be able to have a show for you next week. May or may not. I'm not canceling anything right now. I'm just saying we may not. And it's also good, I think, Emil, to give people a look at the whole bowl picture ahead of the bowls being played. I've always thought that to be a really, really good thing. So we're going to do that. We've got 10 bowl picks for you right now, and they're spread out throughout the bowl season. And then we've got our normal NFL picks. Emil, would you be against us going NFL first here this week?
No, let's go NFL. Let me quickly recap because last week was easy to recap. Chad and I were on 2 of the same games last week. We each took the Dallas Cowboys, giving 4. Dallas was up 24-0 at the half. They did their best to make our you-know-whats go into our throat. But they won the game 27-20. They dominated the game, even though the score might not indicate it. So that was an easy win. We each took a loss on the Houston Texans. We need to have ourselves checked for taking them.
Emil, they jumped out early. I thought we had it.
I did too, and they did Texan-like things and lost by 20 points at home to a struggling Seahawks team. So we took a loss there, and then here's where we parted company. Chad got a hard-earned win. The 49ers did their best. He gave you the 49ers minus 1.5, and midway through the fourth quarter, you're thinking, what a pick. They were up 20-6. It was an easy win.
Should have known better.
I don't know what they did, man. The game goes overtime. They give up the early field goal. They score the late touchdown to get the win, 26-23. Doesn't matter how you did it. You cashed the ticket. You were 2-1. Me, I didn't have that kind of good fortune at the end. I had the Bills, who did the opposite. They came back from a 27-10 deficit with 10 minutes left, tied the game, went to overtime. I got 3 points. I figured, great. You lose by 3. I push a game I think I'm going to lose.
I thought you had 3.5.
What? That's right, 3.5. I could even win. But
Yeah.
No.
No, we got to give up a touchdown in overtime.
A 60-yard touchdown for Brady's 700th.
Yeah, and you know what's weird, Emil? It was an overtime game, and the Bills had the ball first, and all the Bucs really needed was a field goal, and they got a touchdown. So.
Well, all they need to do is push the guy out of bounds. If he goes out of bounds, the guy's going to run on the field, kick the field goal. The listeners are happy. I'm happy. Anyway, Chad goes 2-1. That takes his pro record to 16-23 on the season. I go 1-2, dropping me to 23-16. So we had no college picks last week, so we move along.
Yes, there we go. So since we've got the bigger thing with college football, we'll make these NFL picks right now. Emil, I'm going to jump in with the Indianapolis Colts. Did you say?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in with the Indianapolis Colts in this meeting with the New England Patriots. Big time matchup. And you know what? Everything about this line is screaming for me to take the New England Patriots. So I'm just going to flow in the opposite direction here. The Colts are playing good ball right now. They're running the ball better than anyone in the NFL at this moment. They've got the league's leading rusher. That really sets up everything else pretty well for them. And they're off of a bye week. They've had a pretty good amount of time to prepare for this contest. And I think at home in a primetime game, I think their game for a win like this over the New England Patriots. They're playing good defense. That's kind of what allows you to do when you're running the ball so well. And while I pointed at this out maybe a week or two ago, a lot of these wins lately have come against teams that are not very good. I just think in this particular spot, they can rise up and get the win against a Patriots team that everyone seems to be talking about and giving a whole lot of credit to, and maybe rightfully so. They're on a nice streak. But I'm here to tell you it's tough to keep that kind of streak going, especially off of a bye, off of a nice win against Buffalo in a division game. They may be game for being a little bit off of their game right here. So I'm going to take the Colts.
To me, the personnel matchup here helps the Colts. They're home, and it's going to be hard to bully them and just run it down their throat, which is going to mean Mac Jones is going to have to win a big road game here. I don't think the Patriots are running the ball for 150 yards this week. So that's my guess. I don't know, but so I like where you're going with that one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to roll there too. The Miami Dolphins, and I think they're -10. I'm going to roll with the Dolphins in this one. There's no real reason for the Jets to go on the road and do anything worth a damn. These two teams played earlier on a few weeks ago, about a month ago, in New York, and the Dolphins were good enough to beat them by 7. I think coming back home, I'll give the Dolphins another 7. So that looks like a 14-point win for me. I don't know what the Jets are playing for at this point. The Dolphins, Emil, after starting off miserably, have a shot at the playoffs. So they're really, really playing for something here after winning 5 games in a row. They're playing really, really well on defense. I don't know what's rolling out at quarterback for the New York Jets. I know whatever it is, they're going to get the hell worth of blitz brought to them by the Miami Dolphins, and I just don't see whoever's back there being able to handle it. Jets don't play well defensively, so I just look at this being a really lopsided, one-sided game here. I'm going to lay actually double digits. Can you believe that?
Not to mention they might hit some clubs on Saturday.
Yeah, that too. Club scene's really nice down here around Christmas time, so I could see some Jets players missing curfew. I'm going to go, listen, they put my heart in my throat last week, and I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm going to do it again with the San Francisco 49ers. They're playing good football. They're playing against a team that is another team that I don't know what they're playing for. Yes, they got a win last week at Carolina. I'm talking about the Atlanta Falcons. Can you see them winning back-to-back road games? No way, no how. Just think they rest a little bit off of their success last week. I don't. It's been a while since they put together back-to-back wins. Don't see that happening on the road. San Francisco is really making a push for the playoffs here. Yes, they kind of fell apart a little bit late last week, but they showed me in that early part against the Bengals that they can play some really, really good football. I think they'll do that at home here and run through the Atlanta Falcons. I think the point spread is 9, if I'm not mistaken, or is it 8?
Look at you, Chalky. It is 9.
It is 9.5. There I go. Put me down. 9.5.
All right, so Chad's got the Colts -2.5. That's a Saturday special for you.
Yep.
He's got the Dolphins -10, and then the San Francisco 49ers -9.5.
Chalky it is.
Okay, listen, I'll make mine quick to the point. 1, first pick is the Bills. If they don't win this week and win impressively, I don't know when they do.
Yeah, we keep saying that about these guys.
But, I looked at their schedule. The Bills seem to be bullies. And what I mean by that is when they play these types of teams, they don't win the games by 10 points. They don't win the game by 7 points. No, they'll go out and win by 30 against a team like the Panthers. It's when they get in there against capable teams, 500 and above, they seem to always find ways to lose. And I think this is the perfect situation this week where they're angry, they need the game, and they're playing the kind of team they like to bully. So give me the Bills minus 10.5.
There you go.
Next one. The Steelers are a proud franchise. I used this theory a couple weeks ago when they got points against the Ravens. It worked out well for me. I used it again this week. The Titans without Derrick Henry have been doing it with smoke and mirrors. They're a well-coached football team, but I don't know if they're good enough to go on the road to Pittsburgh and beat a Steeler team that's going to be desperate. They're right in the thick of the playoff hunt. They're getting a point at home. Doesn't mean much. I obviously think they're going to win the game outright, but I think that's disrespectful to this franchise. They know this team's coming in here without their best player, and yet they're still underdogs. I'll take the Steelers +1.
The Steelers were my 4th pick this week, and I just chopped them off the list.
It feels like the kind of game where it's an ugly game in the Northeast this time of year, and Steelers win it like 23-17. You know what I mean? I just feel it like that's the kind of game I feel like it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And then finally, I'm going out west here to the team that you got lucky they didn't steal a win from you last week. I'm going to take the Bengals +2.5 against the Broncos. They just feel like the better team. I know the Broncos have had their moments this year, like the game they played down in Dallas against my team. Probably the best they played all year. But I think generally speaking, with the Broncos, they're very one-dimensional offensively. They have a good defense. But I think Cincinnati just has as much talent overall as them, and they have the much better quarterback. And I just feel like even though they lost last week, they're trending in the right direction. I like what I'm seeing from the Cincinnati Bengals. They don't quit. They play hard. And they're getting 2.5 points here on the road. This is essentially an elimination game in my mind. It's a playoff game. I'm going to take Cincinnati +2.5.
All right. So, recapping that, you've got the Bills minus 10.5. You're taking the Steelers at home. Are they pick 'em, correct?
+1. I got them
+1, and then Cincinnati catching 2.5 on the road. All right. The NFL picks are in. Let's move over now to the College Bowl Bonanza. And just kind of going back real quick to our discussion that we were having about the state of college football. Emil, I just remember the bowl games being such an event for me, especially the New Year's Day thing. I'd bake a whole roll of those Pillsbury cookies and sit down, and from 11 a.m. to whatever time the Orange Bowl or the Sugar Bowl ended that night, I'd be in front of that television, don't bother me. And I would even watch the bowl games leading up to, as everyone was doing their Christmas shopping.
Chad, everything in our, me and my friends and people that are close to me, we built everything too around New Year's Day.
Exactly.
And that's Italians. We eat pork. I'd have my wife when I was young and married, my late 20s, early 30s. She'd make a porchetta. I don't know if pork is supposed to be lucky on New Year's Day. So, you get that in the oven, and people come over, and you start watching games, and you just keep watching them until, midnight.
Exactly. You woke up watching a game, and you're always happy when you're on the East Coast to get a game start before noon. And you're there all day. Like, you didn't shower, you didn't do a damn thing. I might have even, grown some beard stubble at age 12 sitting there watching the games the whole day. That's gone. But nevertheless, let's not get back on our...
It doesn't happen. But here, let me go. Let's do it this way. I'm going to give 5. You give 5. I'll give 5. You give 5. Because we're going to do 10. Chad and I went through the whole card. We've got the best of what we can do for you here. So I'm going to start you off a week. I'm going to start you off tomorrow, I should say. Is today Thursday?
It is, all day.
Thursday? Yes, I am. I'm starting you off on Friday, okay? I like Northern Illinois in this game against Coastal Carolina getting 10.5.
It's a degenerate special, y'all.
It is a degenerate special, but I've always felt Northern Illinois, as far as MAC programs go, they always give you a good effort.
Right.
I like the program. I think Coastal Carolina lost a bit of the chip on their shoulder this year. They're 10-2, a really good year, but they're not getting the love and attention they were last year. And I just think this is a lot to ask of them against a pretty good Northern Illinois team, a 9-4 football team. 10.5 points seems generous to me. So I'm going to take Northern Illinois plus 10.5.
Gotcha.
Next game, rolling right along. We are on, let's find the day. I want to make sure you guys are right day. Saturday the 18th. This one's not quite a degenerate special, but it's getting there. Oregon State's had a nice season. 7-5 for them is a nice season. But I'm not willing to lay a touchdown there. I want Utah State in this game. Give me Utah State plus the 7. This is a 10-3 football team. They got a shot to knock off a Power 5 team. I just feel like this game is going to mean more to them. I don't know how you get jazzed if you're Oregon State. I know they're not used to playing in bowl games. But, is Utah State's scalp on your mantle anything that is really that much to be proud of? I'm not sure it is. So give me Utah State plus the 7.
Gotcha.
Next one. This one is on Tuesday the 21st. And I think it's a complete overreaction. You've said this before. San Diego State's usually a very good football team. I don't know what they did in that championship game in the Mountain West.
I was very disappointed by that performance, to be honest.
They're a great defensive team. They gave up, 46, 45 points, something like that?
Yeah, a Brady Hoke special. Just wasn't good.
I think that rubs them the wrong way. You know what, guys? This is a good game, a watching game. This is a game I might even watch along the way. Texas San Antonio's 12-1. San Diego State's 11-2. They made UTSA the favorite here. I think it's overreaction to one bad game from San Diego State. And I think a proud program like San Diego State, they've been a very good defensive club the last few years. I think they take that loss and that drubbing to heart. They correct some things, and I think they go out and win a low-scoring San Diego State type game here. So give me San Diego State plus the 2.5.
All righty.
Now, this one, I just don't see here on Thursday the 23rd. I've got to grab Central Florida plus 6.5 against Florida. I know Florida's got a new coach. I just don't think.
I had a feeling you were going to do this. I'm, obviously letting the cat out the bag. I'm not going to, I'm not picking a Florida game. But if I was, Emil, having been down here and listening to UCF players, coaches, alumni, fans, etc., how bad they've wanted to be included, they have all the motivation in this game.
I do, and I think it's going to be hard to get Florida jacked for this game. They have a new coach. There's change about. You could say, they want to impress the new coach. I'm not sure the players care that much about a bowl game against UCF. It's not what Florida envisions when they start a season. It's not where they want to end up. I don't think the motivation is there. I don't think kids care that much. The fans may care about losing to UCF. I know that, but I don't think the players care as much. Give me Central Florida plus the 6.5 here.
All righty.
And then for my 5th pick, and then we'll cut over to you for a while here. I'm dropping down here to Tuesday the 28th, a Fox night game, and I'm going to grab NC State, a good NC State team, 9-3, -1 against UCLA. The cat was out of the bag, to use your term. Chip Kelly was talking to Oregon.
Was he over there cheating? Was he over there? He was on Tinder? He was on Tinder talking to Oregon?
He was on Tinder talking to Oregon. And you know what? That has an impact. I think the kids see that. There's not a lot of focus there. How focused is Chip Kelly if he's already looking for his next job?
Yeah, might have checked out there.
He might have checked out, and I think NC State, they're looking at a 10-win season. That's a big deal for them. They're looking at a top 15 ranking if they can get that 10th win. I think they go out there and they do it, and I think they do it easily. Give me NC State -1.
So, Northern Illinois plus 10.5, Utah State plus 7, San Diego State plus 2.5, UCF plus 6.5, NC State -1. A lot. I hear the dogs barking on this 5 that you put out here.
You know how early bowl games tend to go.
Yes. All right. So for me, I'm going, let me start off with the one we agree on, and it's also the earliest bowl game that I'm picking, and I'm going to go with you on the Utah State, and it's pretty much for a lot of the same reasons that you have put out there. I just don't know the motivation here for, Oregon State. Yes, they're not bowl regulars, but that Utah State squad, low-key, if I can use that term, is a pretty good football team. And they're no strangers to playing in big games against quality opponents. They took on Washington State in Washington State earlier this year and was able to get a win. So they're not going to blink against an Oregon State. They do a lot of really, really good things. They're obviously offensive minded. That tends to go pretty good ways in these bowl games because if you're not fully motivated, defense becomes an issue in these bowl games, and Utah State's going to, bring in a pretty good offense. I think that's going to be a problem. And, for someone who's not in bowl games so often, who's Oregon State to lay 7 points? I'm going to go with you on the Utah State here. So give me them as underdogs +7 here. Now I'm going to roll over to something we may have seen before. This is Auburn in a bowl game against an opponent they may not care to face. And this opponent happens to be a really good opponent, and that's Houston. Now, when you get out here and you look at the line, just basically looking at a line, it's Auburn Tigers, it's the Houston Cougars. Auburn should be a 9-point favorite. This is an SEC blue blood team going against, someone that's not in a Power 5 conference. They're only 3 points. That tells me something. That means, the odds makers have taken into effect some of the things we've seen in bowl season where a team might have a problem with motivation. Auburn has certainly found themselves in those shoes in recent history. And again, Houston's a really, really good football team. And if Auburn doesn't come to play, this 11-2 football team that played in their conference championship could take them to the woodshed. They're going to definitely pack an offense. And you know what I've told you? I said it on the last pick. In the bowl games, if you're not fully motivated, defense is what suffers, and it's not very good when you're facing a pretty solid offensive team like Houston.
Yeah, I looked at this game. I really like that pick too. I like Houston here a lot.
Yeah, and you got a coach in Dana Holgorsen who was at a Power 5 school and, maybe looking to show his worth to head back over there. So I like him. I like him there in that one. You know what else is tough in bowl season, Emil? It's facing one of those academies if you're not all in. Again, it's going to speak to defense. And I can assure you nothing sucks more than preparing for an option attack when that's not the thing that you do.
Oh, I know the pick that's coming.
Louisville 6-6. They've played in some pretty big games in years past. They've kind of been in the college football eye, and now they're going to this bowl game in Dallas, Texas. And the First Responders Bowl, they've never heard of it before. And they're going to face a service academy that always, Emil, seems happy to be in bowl games. Have you ever seen an unmotivated service academy team in a bowl game? Never the case. And now you're getting this option attack, and I'm telling you, man, those guys in the secondary are pissed off. Like, damn, we're not going to see a pass. I didn't sign up for this. Let me get my goodies bag, and I'm going to just go out here and, play this game.
So you're going to be tackling, I can tell you that.
Yeah, and you're going to be getting off of blocks, and you're going to get cut blocked, and it's going to be a lot of BS you don't want to deal with. So let me not go any further. I love Air Force getting points in this game. They're a 9-3 football team. They're good.
I got them +1.5. Do you have the same thing?
I have +2, but yes, we can go with 1.5 if that's what you got.
It's not going to matter. I agree. I'm with you.
Yeah, I think they might run these boys right the hell on up out of here. And then another one, which I think is going to be a really, really good bowl game. It's coming up next Tuesday, a couple Tuesdays from now, the 28th. It's between West Virginia and Minnesota. West Virginia started off this year looking like a really good football team, a team that might do something this year. Yes, they lost the opener, but they looked good in the games that they played, and then they just kind of hit a little bit of a wet spot. I just don't like the way that they finished out the year. They didn't seem to be able to stand up against the big boys of their conference. They did get the win versus Texas, and then they limped through a game against lowly Kansas, 34-28. And I'm just not sure which way they're going. I know Minnesota is trying to do big things. We saw them in the opener against Ohio State. They played really, really good football there. They were solid all throughout the year. They had a loss against Illinois that was a head-scratcher, but they played hard in their games against the big boys of their conference, which included getting a win at the end of the year against Wisconsin. I just think this is a better football team, a more disciplined football team, and a team that's more likely to show up and be on point in the bowl game. So I like them as a favorite in this game. The numbers dropped down to 3.5 from 4.5. I
think Fleck will have an easier time getting them to play hard in this game.
Yeah, I just like the whole movement of Minnesota versus that of West Virginia, if I could use that term. And then I'm going to do something that might seem crazy. There's a battle of North versus South Carolina here. I know there's some folks that are kind of up in the air on Mac Brown, but you know what? Mac Brown is he's a bowl veteran. He's been coaching for a long time, and if anyone can get someone ready for a bowl game, I think it's them. And then the line was kind of crazy for me. When I first saw it, it was North Carolina -7. I was like, man, that kind of just seems high on the surface. I think the odds makers are trying to get me to take South Carolina.
It's up to 9
here.
now, right now, Chad.
It is up to 9. That makes me like it even more. As crazy as that sounds. It's like,
No, I know what you mean.
yeah, why would they be that big of a favorite? Somebody knows something, and, South Carolina is going to be wet behind the ears. Brand new coach here in a bowl game. I just like Mac's experience and the explosive offense of North Carolina. I've come to learn that in these early bowl games, before we get to the bowl games that really, really matter, having a good offense really helps. North Carolina has that.
I don't think Howell had the year he wanted to have, and I think this is going to be a big game for him to showcase himself, going to the next level.
Yeah, most definitely. So that's my 5 early ones. It's
Let me recap those for the listeners. Chad's got Utah State +7. He's got the Houston Cougars +3. He's got the Air Force Cadets there +1.5. Minnesota Golden Gophers -3.5. And the North Carolina Tar Heels -9.
there you go.
Okay, now back to me for my last 5 for this bowl season. I'm going to a game that, I'm a little scared the line doesn't make sense. But I do think they don't think that they're going to get a motivated team here. I like Clemson. You're going to give me Clemson +1.5. I know they haven't had the season that they wanted to have, and maybe they're not excited, but I think they position themselves down the stretch to have a good year. They played much better football, and they can get a 10-win season. And for a program like that, I think they're going to take some pride in that. And I just see, as a Power 5 opponent coming in, Iowa State, I think they can get enough motivation inside the program with Dabo losing some coordinators, rallying the troops to go out there and play Clemson football. And, you give me Clemson +1.5, I'll be a sucker. I'm going to take them.
Emil, I would never have thought maybe a year or 2 years ago or 3 years ago that a bowl game like this would be so important to Clemson, but it is. You've lost your longtime defensive coordinator. You've lost your offensive coordinator. You had your worst season maybe in the last 5, 6, 7 years for Clemson. Your recruiting class was way below what you thought it should have been this year. They need momentum. And this would be a way to get it.
It feels like to me, it feels like one of those make or break years. As a Trojan fan, it was Carroll's last year at USC. He went 9-4. He left. He went to the NFL. And it feels to me like this could be a game like that. Not to overstate it for Clemson. Remember, there's going to be jobs opening up. Dabo Swinney, why wouldn't he be a candidate for an NFL job?
Sure. I can't see him as an NFL coach, but that never stops anything.
No, it never stops anybody. You think if they wave enough money, he might not. So I'm saying I think it's a big game for the program. I think they want to keep the momentum and continue on as being one of the top teams in college football. Let's get the 10th win. I like Clemson +1.5.
Sure.
Another game I'm interested in. A little bit here, I have to tell you, I'm a little bit of a closet Pitt fan. They're one of the teams I like to root for. I've never been a Penn State guy up here. My father and I, God rest his soul, used to always argue. He was a diehard Penn State fan, but when they played Pitt, I rooted for Pitt.
Typical Emil right there. That's so Emil.
It is so Emil, isn't it? I don't like Pitt in this game. I know they play a lot of offense, and I know Michigan, they have a great quarterback, and Michigan State has trouble with the pass. But the one thing I like about this game is Michigan State, I like the coach, and I like the fact that they can run the football with an NFL back. And when you can do that, and Pitt's not a great defensive team, that keeps that great quarterback over on the sidelines getting anxious, wanting to do a lot more when he gets in the game because he knows his opportunities are limited. And I think that leads to mistakes. This is a good football game, a 10 versus 12 matchup. I'm going to take Michigan State minus the 1.5 in this one.
Okay.
I see you don't like that, by the way. You did like my wife.
I don't know, man. Are you reading too much there? I don't know. We'll see.
We're going into the next game here. It's the very next game right below them on the card. And I'm going again with the Big Ten here. They're playing Arizona State. Wisconsin always comes to play. You may not like the way they play. It may be boring. But they're going to play physical. They're going to run the ball. I'm not so sure Arizona State's that interested in this game out in Las Vegas. I know Wisconsin's going to be physical. I don't know what I'm going to get from Arizona State. I'm going with what I know in a game like this, and I'll take Wisconsin minus the 7. This feels like a game where they just out-physical Arizona State.
I'm here to tell you, and this is kind of like references back to the Air Force comments that I had, Wisconsin's the worst team for you to face if you're not all in a bowl game. The worst.
Exactly right, because it's going to be smash mouth.
Yes.
You're going to get beat up, and if your heart's not in it, yeah, it's not going to be pretty.
Yes, I agree.
And then I'm going with another team that I'm definitely an open, out-of-the-closet fan of. I'm going to take the Miami Hurricanes, minus 2.5 against Washington State. I like the energy around the program. I don't like the way they went about their business. I think they're going to have to clean that mess up, the way they fired Manny Diaz.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knew it except Manny. But they got their guy, and sometimes when your guy's there, you got to go get him. And I think there's a positive energy around the program. I'm not sure that I'm not excited about Washington State here. They're going to El Paso, Texas. They're a 7-5 team. I saw my Trojans drill them, and USC was bad this year. I just like Miami here. Give me Miami minus 2.5.
All righty.
Finally, I'm going to a big game here.
By the way, I was all in on the Miami pick if Manny Diaz stayed. I didn't like, but I do. I think Cristobal's a charmer, your old teammate. I think being around that program, there's some energy. I just feel like yeah, you could have a situation where guys are trying to impress him. No doubt. I just backed off when they had all the changes. So doesn't mean I don't like the pick.
No, I know. I'm going to the college football playoff here.
Okay.
I think the committee sent a message to Cincinnati saying, okay, you want to belong. I think, unfortunately, this is a team that they're not going to catch by surprise. Nick Saban is here every year. It's like an annual rite of passage at Alabama. And if you look at their record in these semifinal games and what the scores usually are, they drill teams. And I think it's no different this year. Mm-hmm. They're given 13.5 points. To me, this just feels like, 34-7 or something, maybe worse. I don't know. That's not a knock on Cincinnati. I just think Alabama is playing some great football. They've got a quarterback that can light you up, and 13.5 doesn't feel like enough to get me to take Cincinnati, so give me the Tide, minus 13.5.
Yeah, Emil, I'm kind of on the opposite end of that. I think we might. It would only make sense in this year for something really wacky to happen. And I kind of seen Nick Saban battling to keep his guys in tune, like mentally, when they were facing opponents that they were obviously better than, or at least the public felt they were better than. And I'm hoping this is not that situation, but that could be off of the Georgia game. Obviously, I want you to win the pick, but there is the possibility of complete mayhem here. All right. That's his 5 recapping. Alabama minus 13.5. The good old Miami Hurricanes minus 2.5. And I've got my Hurricanes visor on, so that goes well with the show, Emil. Wisconsin minus 7. Michigan State minus 1.5. And Clemson catching 1.5 from Iowa State. All right. We're on the opposite end of some games here, so let's just get those ones out of the way. I am on the opposite end of your Clemson pick. You said a lot of things in there that kind of will drive me in that direction. I'm not sure what's going on with Clemson. With the way I seen the coordinators leave, what I saw happen with recruiting, and then I see the frustration from Dabo Swinney and some of the comments that he made that we didn't even have time to get to today. I get the sense that there's something not quite so right within Clemson right now. And that's just a lot to carry to the field against a solid Iowa State team that just seems like the kind of team that'll go to a bowl game and be about their business and not get caught up in too much of the hoopla and just go out there and play the kind of solid college football that they've been known to play. And maybe, I don't know if Campbell was thinking he was going to get one of these other jobs, but he didn't. And that could be some big time motivation for him. Maybe he wants to knock off one of the big boys and say, how you like me now? Notre Dame, LSU, USC, Oklahoma, all you guys have passed over me. So I just think he's going to bring a motivated squad to the table. I'm going to take Iowa State in this one.
Okay.
Going to slide over to your pick with Pittsburgh and Michigan State. I probably made picks on maybe 4-5 Michigan State games this year. I think I might have picked Michigan State every time. So, this is a team I really, really followed. One thing I did notice, though, in watching Michigan State, and I first really noticed it in their game against us, being Miami, not very good in pass coverage. And they kind of knew it in that game.
They're not just not very good. They're god awful.
Yeah, they're abysmal. They kind of just let everything happen in front of them against Miami. And kind of, I don't know if you've ever, I always use this analogy, but you ever played ping pong against somebody who is just not aggressive? They just returned your shot and wait for you to do something stupid, like yeah, that's kind of how they played the Miami game.
Yep.
Then I saw in further games later on in the year where they tried to mix up coverages and they just couldn't do it. They tried to bring pressure. They would get hurt in the back end. They tried to disguise coverages. They couldn't get it done. And if you look at that Ohio State game and just how, if you look at the ledger of Michigan State, and you look at the scores for their games and how the Ohio State game just jumps off like, man, what the hell happened there? It really was out of the passing game. They got blitzed by the passing game of Ohio State. And if there's any team in a bowl that could do that, it's going to be Pittsburgh. Now, one thing that does concern me is Pitt's, lost their offensive coordinator. While that concerns me, it's also another thing that I know about coaching that I've talked about with you before, Emil, is when you remove an element for one game, it can make you unpredictable. So I think that's going to be a bit of a problem for Michigan State on top of not having what they need in that back end. And I think this will turn into a track meet. If we're looking at overs, this would be one of them. I just don't think Michigan. Yeah, when you've got a good running team versus a really good passing team in a bowl game, that's a little pro tip here. Really start thinking about the over in that one. But I don't think Michigan State can win a track meet, and I just think Michigan State maybe at some point had higher aspirations this year, and this is maybe not where they thought they were going to end up. So I'm going to take Pitt in this one.
Okay.
Sliding over to a game where initially where I saw it came out, I was like, man, Ohio State fell short this year. This is not what they thought was going to happen. They probably thought they were going to be in the college football playoff. Now that they're not in it, can they really get up for a bowl game like this? And then I had to think, you know what? This team lost early to Oregon. So maybe in the back of their minds, they knew this wasn't going to be a championship kind of year. Now you've gotten beat by Michigan and you're suffering all of the backlash from that, the jokes, etc. This would leave them motivated. After all, they're not in some silly bowl game. It's a solid bowl game that you're going to. It's the Rose Bowl. I mean, that still holds.
Of them all.
Yeah, I mean, it's not in the college football playoff, but it's still something that means something. And you're going against a Utah State that's maybe smelling themselves a little bit too much after beating up on the same team twice. That was an opportune matchup for them, so they may be thinking a little bit too much of themselves. If I've got any concern, it's that, Ohio State didn't look good against a Oregon team that got physical with them, but that was early in the year, so I think they maybe shored some of that up. I know Michigan kind of took their heart away from them, but I see that Ohio State passing game getting cranked up and being able to do to Utah what Oregon really was not able to do. And that'll keep them out ahead. And I think Ohio State really has something to prove here. I have this at -6. So I'm going to go with Ohio State Lings.
Buckeyes.
Yes, I am. Here's another one. Sorry about that. But we've got Oklahoma State against Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl. Oklahoma State is another team that probably saw themselves in a college football playoff, and they're really, really disappointed in the fact that they couldn't get it done against Baylor. And then now, how do they pick themselves up from that? You know what I mean? I know Notre Dame may have also had some aspirations of being in a college football playoff, but they were on the outside looking in. So there's not a major disappointment there not making it in. So, and then, like you said with the Miami pick, I think this team's energized with having Marcus Freeman there. Yes, he's taking on a new role, but there'll be some different things. So I don't know from, scouting Notre Dame if you're going to get much of the same things. Yes, I know Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator, is staying, But I just think there's an energy at Notre Dame that is really, really good right now, and I like them as, I believe it's a 2-point favorite in this game.
2-point favorite, the Fighting Irish.
Yes, hold on real quick. All right. Need to swallow some water here. I'm going to do something.
This next pick is serious.
Yeah, very serious business about to happen here. Let me talk to our fans here, to our college football fans listening to this. The easiest thing in the world for you guys to do, and this is what happens in the sports betting world, and while they clean up in Vegas and FanDuel and everyone else now that's taking your bets and your money, the easiest thing for you to do is to cancel Georgia after they got slapped around by Alabama on that field in the SEC championship game. I saw people even talking about they shouldn't even be in the college football playoff. They shouldn't even be in the top 5 or 6. They wanted them behind Oklahoma State and everyone else. This is the way they were talking during the game, and then some after the game. This is the way they wanted it. This was the number 1 team all year long that had as good a defense for up until that SEC championship game as anyone maybe we've seen in college football. Granted, maybe there could have been better competition, but we can't go back in time and really look at what some of those teams faced. I know this is a damn good football team. I know this is an embarrassed football team. I know this is a football team that lost to a team that kind of has their number that they've played against. If I were, crazy as this is going to sound, America, going to pick a favorite to win this whole thing, it's going to be Georgia for me. I know football.
You know what's funny? I'm with you on this. I am 100% with you that I actually like Georgia's chances the same way when Alabama beat LSU a few years ago in a rematch in the championship game.
Yes. I know one thing about this sport is that it's kind to those who have something to prove. And if there's one team right now still alive practicing college football to play games that has something to prove, it is the Georgia Bulldogs. They've got something to prove. They're taking on a Michigan team that I've liked all year long. I've talked about it on here. It's amazing what they did in that championship game for the Big Ten. Won in grand fashion. They may have nuts that are too heavy coming into this game.
And I think that they also may have achieved their life goal. And as much as you could say, well, wait, they played the championship game against Iowa. Iowa might be, this year's version of the Hawkeyes might be the worst 10-2 team I've ever seen, okay? Mm-hmm. I saw that one coming from a mile away, but Michigan's goal was to finally beat Ohio State. And I'm not sure that that Iowa game, to your point, might have reinforced in their mind, oh, we're great.
Yeah.
Look at us. Look what we did to them.
Exactly. They may have peaked here. They may definitely have peaked. And what they're about to face is no joke. It's unlike anything that they've faced this year. Ohio State is not Georgia defensively. And I think offensively, Georgia's probably going to tweak a few things that Michigan might not be prepared for. One of those things might be a change at quarterback. And it's just going to be a problem for Michigan on that side of the ball. And just Michigan's going to find it tough to sled offensively against this Georgia defense that's going to be full of pride.
I almost made this a pick, and it's an 8-point line for me. Is that what you're showing?
Yeah, I'll go with 8 on this one. So
I'll tell you what, the thing that people have to realize is Alabama, because of the familiarity and the fact that they have an all-world quarterback, is a different matchup. It's going to be hard for Michigan to line up and run the ball the way they did against Ohio State against Georgia.
Yes.
So their quarterback is going to have to make plays, and I'm not sure they're equipped to do that.
And he'll be under a ton of pressure when he drops back. So it's going to be a tough deal for Michigan. I could see 24-7, 27-7, something like that. It's going to be a hard way to go. And, Michigan may just say, hey, listen, we had a good season. Let's just call it George, as they would say. So
let's recap your final 5 here. Chad goes against me. He takes Iowa State laying 1.5 against Clemson. He goes against me again. What kind of friend is he? He takes Pitt plus 1.5 against Michigan State. Then he goes down to the Ohio State University, laying 6 against Utah. He grabs the Notre Dame Fighting Irish minus 2 against Oklahoma State. And then in the college football playoff, he has Georgia laying 8 over Michigan.
There it is. We've laid it out for you. When next we're on, we'll remind you of the games that are coming up, the picks that we have coming up. Again, I'm not sure about next week, us having a show, but we'll be back on again before the college football playoffs, and I think a good number of these games. But if we're just in case we're not, make sure you write those down. Run the tape back, all right? And check those out. I think we've got a good slate of games here that we've picked and some really, really good picks. All right, we ran long here today. Blame it on Urban Meyer and college football, man. We got a little jazzed up about that topic, did we not?
Yeah, we did.
We did. But all right, time for us to sign off. Go out there and get in that traffic, in that mall traffic, and go get those gifts that you didn't get yet. Feel sorry for those of you who haven't. I'm one of them.
And can I give a tip? Remember, if you're drinking eggnog, don't do it without bourbon.
Good Lord. Yes. Don't do that. Don't substitute. Don't drop tequila in your eggnog, all right? Bourbon is the answer, all right? So I gave you a pro handicap tip. He gave you a pro drinking tip. If there's anything else more, down the degeneration lines that we need, we'll hit you up on our next show on it, all right? But again, thank you guys for listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, whatever you're listening on, go ahead and hit the subscribe button there as well. We are bringing you some really solid content here. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. And until next time, Merry Christmas, if that's what needs to be said right now. And happy holidays. And we would like to thank you. For Emil Calamino, I'm Chad Wilson. Thanks for watching and listening to the GridironStuds Show.